He said, I said, you can't ban a book because you don't like the author's opinion, or you don't want the people that's going to read the book to formulate their own opinion, whether it's good or bad in terms of the Jews and what you feel. So you can't do that. You can't parent the world. You can't parent South Africa. And I said, Mein Kampf is by a man named Adolf Hitler who was anti-Semitic in your eyes. Yes, but his book is not being attacked by the ADL or the South African Board of Deputies, because it's on store shelves in South Africa and in America.
Did they have any response to that when you said that? Because you would think that a book that was written specifically targeting them, not targeting any other racial demographic, but them, would be something that would be of great focus for them. Did they have any rebuttal?
No rebuttal at all. All they did was get red. They took off their kippah. There were facial glitches and twitches, like they were having some kind of breakdown. They were getting up. They were walking out. They were pacing the floor. They were whispering to each other. They were throwing up their hands. They were squirming in their seats. They were very uncomfortable at the truth that I was giving them that they could not refute. And I told them, I said, The Hidden Tyranny by Harold Wallace Rosenthal, again, is a book about an interview that happened between a Jewish man and a white man. And they said, well, it's a forgery, it's a fake, it's not real. I said, but it's stored in the U.S. government public digital library.
They lied so much. It's like they trying to catch up with their lie, but it's too late. It is so too late. You know what I'm saying? Whenever they don't agree with it, it's fake, it's not real. Man, the Most High set them up really good. Praise the Most High. He set them up bad.
Yes, so I said the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library digital collection. Do you think they have books about Santa Claus and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and like Jason and Halloween and all these things that are not real? I said, do you think the Presidential Digital Library Collection has foolishness in it or stuff that's real? And I said, The Hidden Tyranny, whether you like it or not, is available on Amazon. So it passed their content guideline review. It is there. And then when they talk about the synagogue of Satan, I said, well, they said, well, the narrator speaks about the synagogue of Satan as the evil forces that control people's minds and prevents the truth from becoming known. It also makes reference to the Star of David, which is a symbol of Jewish identity and faith. And I said, wait a minute. I said, the movie shows the geometric hexagram symbol, and you might see you will see the hexagram symbol with a horned devil figure on it. And I said, the actual words that is said is not what you guys are saying. It's the seed of Edom, the seed of Cain, the synagogue of Satan, and Lucifer himself have been a major confederate that has been against us for a very long time. And so a confederate, I said a confederate is a person, a group, or a nation united with others in a confederacy, meaning allies, supporters. And so I had to break this down to them in this matter so they can understand it. Because when you talk about the synagogue of Satan, you talk about the synagogue of Satan, you have to break down the word synagogue, you have to break down the word Satan. And so the word synagogue means a place of gathering, means to gather, to assemble together, like a meeting. Like the rabbis will come to the synagogue to gather and debate the law, discuss things, teach, whatever. And I said the synagogue was a place of congregation. In this case, it was the Jews that congregated, the scribes, the Pharisees, and the Sadducees. I said, so here we have here, synagogue of Satan. And I said, let's talk about this major confederate that has been against us for a very long time, and the synagogue of Satan and Lucifer himself. I said, notice how I separated the word synagogue of Satan and Lucifer, because Lucifer, his name in Hebrew is Hillel. We have the angels, we have Uriel, Raphael, Michael, Gabriel, and we have Hillel. Hillel is the Hebrew word for Lucifer. I said Satan, like Lawrence, you mentioned earlier, Satan is the word adversary, opponent, foe, enemy, antagonist, somebody that is against you. And I said the hexagram is older than the Hebrews. I said Hinduism is believed to have been started in 2300 BC, before Moses, Joseph, Isaac, and Jacob lived, before King Saul, King David, and King Solomon lived. In Hinduism, they were already using the hexagram. In the 14th century, mid 14th century, the hexagram was then distinctly used as a Jewish symbol when Holy Roman Emperor Charles IV granted the Jews of Prague the right to carry a flag, and they chose the six-pointed star. I said that the hexagram, however, in ancient history has been associated also with the occult, demons, witchcraft, Satanism, sorcery. This is a known fact. I said the Church of Satan, the Satanic Temple, and the Baphomet figure, which was the iconic symbol for the Church of Satan. I said here we have the inverted pentagram with Hebrew letters around the circle. I say here we see the pentagram and the Baphomet goat head. Here we see Jewish manuscripts with the Baphomet on the manuscripts, and we also see the hexagram, and we see the Baphomet head, and then we see the all-seeing eye with horns on it. And I said, well, hold on. I said, what people in the world speak and write and understand Hebrew? Is it Black people? Is it Chinese people? Is it Japanese, Taiwanese, Filipino, Indian, Russian, United Kingdom, Spain, Portugal, France, Germany, Scandinavia, Norway, Denmark, Belarus, Prussia, Poland, Austria, Hungary, the Netherlands? I said, who today whose official language is Hebrew? And they said, and I said, Israel, right? And they said, yes. And I said, so why are these manuscripts written in Hebrew and they have all these symbols of a hexagram, an all-seeing eye, a Baphomet figure? What's going on here? And they didn't have no words for this.
Y'all better download this one, okay?
Well, I'm trying to tell you, boy. I was trying to tell you. You know what's funny? Because when Ron asked that question, but he knows. You know, like, okay, so who does this? Like, okay, he's looking at them like, yeah, y'all the one that do this. So it's just being presented with all these facts. You know what I'm saying? But keep going, bro, because this is just half of it. But anyway, go ahead.
So I pulled this up on the screen. In the committee, the South African committee, they're Black. They were looking at it, in the South African Jewish Board of Deputies, and their lawyers were all looking at it. The Indian guy in there was looking at it. I said, what does this say here? This says, Mendel men's satanic Baphomet hexagram goat head necklace pendant stainless steel, sold in the United States for $11.99. I said, why does the satanic Baphomet have the same geometric hexagram as a symbol of Jewish faith and the Jewish identity? Why? And they didn't say anything. And I showed this video, but I'm not gonna show it for YouTube purposes. And I showed this Museum of Witchcraft and Magic. I said, why does this Museum of Witchcraft and Magic have the hexagram here? What is this all about? And they didn't say anything. Then I said, here we see on Amazon a satanic sigil, pentagram. Here we see the word hexagram again, magic journal, black magic, occult, Wicca, and satanic journals. Why is the hexagram inside of this other star? I said, we got to ask ourselves these questions. What's going on here? And I said, Satan, you guys keep saying, oh, synagogue of Satan is in here. Well, Satan just means an adversary. It means somebody that is against, opponent, a foe. I said, an adversary is a person, group, or force that opposes or attacks. He's an opponent. He's an enemy. He's a foe. And I said, do you think that the people that did this to the Congolese people in Congo, the Belgians and King Leopold the First and his people, do you think they were the friends of the Congolese people? Or are they the enemies? Obviously, a friend doesn't come and enslave you. He doesn't come and steal you. He doesn't come and chop your hands off because you didn't pick enough rubber. And I said this to them in the room, and I said, there's a friend cut your hand off. There's a friend enslave you. There's a friend rape you. There's a friend sell you to be a slave in a plantation in Jamaica or Suriname. And they all sat there, and they were, a lot of them were turning red. A lot of them looked like they just had so much guilt and remorse in them that they were ashamed. I could tell some people were ashamed of the history of their fathers, their forefathers. And I said, synagogue is a Greek word. It means a bringing together, an assembling. That's what it means, a congregation, people coming together. In this case, when we look at Africa, there was a confederate of people and nations coming together. And we know that the people that invaded Africa as a confederate, they are the conquerors and the victors, and the conquerors write the history. They tell the history. And those that could tell the history and they control the history telling in the Catholic Church, in the Cambridge school system, they teach us English and French and Portuguese because they're the teachers. This is the whole reason why people in Africa can speak English and Dutch and Portuguese and French, because they were taught by their colonizers, their conquerors. So he who controls the history, meaning the past, controls the present.
This is good.
And if you control the present, you control the past. So George Orwell said, whoever controls the past controls the future. So he meant that history is incredibly important in shaping the worldview of the next generation of people, especially African people. And I said, so when they came as a confederate to Africa, they assembled together as a synagogue, like an assembly, a gathering. And what were they to the people of Africa? They were the adversary. They were our foe, our enemy, our opponent, our antagonist. So they were literally, in terms of the definition, the synagogue of Satan. The Belgium, the French, the Spanish, the Portuguese, the Italians, the Germans, Germany, Great Britain. And I said, you guys knew what you were doing when you came into Africa. And I said, we cannot get away from the association that Jewish people had when they also came into Africa. Because I said, how did you get to Africa? How did you have Rhodesia, North and South Rhodesia, and the Zimbabwe border deputies, Jewish border deputies? How did you even get to South Africa? You came from Lithuania in Eastern Europe, correct? Yes. Did the African people invite you to come here? Did they say, come on in? Or did you come with the British and the Dutch? I said, so the affiliation with the other nations is there. The affiliation with America is there. We all can see it. The affiliation with the Great Britain or Britain and the Balfour Declaration is there. It's in the history books. You can't say that the British in America was not involved in the Balfour Declaration and the creation of the state of Israel. It's in the history books. So I said, Putin is sitting here at the Wailing Wall with a kippah, and he's lighting the menorah. He's holding the menorah. What's that all about? Well, a lot of people should know that a lot of the rich oligarchs in Russia are millionaires and billionaires, Jewish, and they support Putin.
Hold on. You're going to have to repeat that more, because this is the conversation right here that people don't want to have.
Yeah.
Conversation that people don't want to have when they're talking about Russia and Putin and iconography and he's for Africa. Please, my brother, please break it down.
And even with that, when you say that, that's why I was like, this stuff gets even deeper than this. And how Russia, them, China, they play a major role in the end times. But man, that's why they need to watch Volume 3. Man, it's go ahead, Ron.
Yeah, so if you understand the formation of the United Nations and the League of Nations and the USSR and the Bolsheviks and the Russian czars, you will see Stalin, Lenin, Trotsky, they're Jewish. And when you seen the transition from the USSR to the Russia, you have to understand that these Jewish millionaires and billionaires, they did not go anywhere. They're still there in Russia, and they are supporting behind the scenes Putin. There's Russian billionaires and millionaires in Russia that support Putin, and Putin knows this. He can't bite the hand that feeds him. So if they invite him to the Western Wailing Wall, he has to put on the kippah. He draws the attention of all the movers and shakers of Israel, and he lights the menorah. He holds the menorah. Imagine Prince Salman of Saudi Arabia, or the president of Turkey, or the president of Iran and Palestine and Lebanon being invited to the Wailing Wall and putting on a kippah and holding the menorah and lighting it and meeting with all the rabbis and big people in Israel. They would not do that. They would not. Imagine Kim Jong doing that, going to the Wailing Wall, the president of North Korea, in lighting the menorah, putting on a kippah, meeting with the rabbis. No. So we have to understand the alliances and partnerships of the other nations. They know this. They know this. This is all truth. And so I basically broke down who is against us, Black people in Africa. And I said, what is colonialism? Because we know that it existed and it happened. And I said, colonialism is a practice of domination, which involves the subjugation of one people, in this case, Black people, to another, the white races. Colonialism occurs when people from one country settle in another country for the purpose of exploiting its people and natural resources. Colonialism is the practice by which a powerful country directly controls less powerful countries and uses their resources to increase its own power and wealth. Colonialism is a policy or system in which a country controls another country or area. And I said, well, who's doing this? Who is colonizing Africa? Is it just Britain? Is it just France and Portugal and Spain and Germany? Are they the only people that conspired and actually carried out the colonialism of African people in sub-Saharan Africa? I said, no, it's also the Jews. And they looked at me like, huh? And I said, okay, you all know who Theodore Herzl is, right? And they said, yes, he's the founder of Zionism. I said, okay, this is what he said in his diary. It's on Amazon right now. You can buy it. It passed the content guidelines. And they said, oh, and I said, okay, well, in his diaries, this man, Theodore Herzl, he uncovers the plans for the Jewish people to colonize Africa. And I said, we just went over what colonialism is, right? And they sat there listening. I said, so now let's go into the Jewish people's plans to colonize Africa, as said by Theodore Herzl, the founder of Zionism. I said, you cannot take over someone's land and move them to the side or move them out the way to make way for your own people unless it's done with trickery or force, with or without supports from other allies. Like in this case, the British or the Americans. I said, this is not what a friend does to one another.
Mm.
And they sat there and listened. And I said, in Theodore Herzl's own diary, page 1414, and I read this in front of the whole committee. I said, there is still another reason that caused me to act now. This is Theodore Herzl talking. In several countries, the situation of our poor Jews have become so intolerable that we must find a refuge for them at any cost. This is why the Zionist Committee, of which I am the head, has entered into negotiations with a government that controls sufficient territory in Africa. These negotiations are quite serious and quite advanced. I am at a very advanced stage of negotiation about a plan for Jewish colonization in Africa. Before bringing the matter to a conclusion, I wanted to apply one last time to that quarter where so many sympathies draw me. Goes on to say on page 1551, the most difficult moment came when I had to lay before the Congress the British government's offer concerning a territory in Africa for our colonization. As I had the honor of telling YE, I had sought the aid of the British government for obtaining Egypt-Palestine. This request having been refused by the Egyptian government, the British government was kind enough to offer us a territory in East Africa. The proposal was contained in a letter to Sir Clement Hill, dated August 14th, and sent to Basel. A territory we can find elsewhere. We have found it. You have undoubtedly read in the papers that the English government has offered me a territory of 60,000 to 90,000 square leagues. Now, what that is in hectares is 180 million to 270 million hectares. Now, 1 hectare is 2.47 acres. 1 hectare is 2.47 acres. So the English government granted Theodore Herzl and the Jews 180 million to 270 million hectares of land in Africa. And he described it as a rich, fertile country, excellent for our colonization. Note that South Africa's total land area is only 122 million hectares. Uganda's total land area is only 24 million hectares. Ethiopia's total land area is 111 million hectares. The Democratic Republic of the Congo falls into this category of 200 million hectares. And I said, the Jews, I said, you guys came right along with the British and the Dutch. When they came, you came right with them through the door. And I said, so if a thief comes into my house and some other person comes in with them and says, no, I wasn't there, but you were there. And you settled in my house and set up shop and kicked me out, or you let me stay there, but now you're living in my house with me. And I'm like asking, well, how did you get here? Well, we came. Well, I know the British came and the French came and the Dutch came, but how are you here?
Woo.
Well, how did you get here? And I gave them this analogy, and I said, so how did the Jews get from Russia and Germany and Lithuania and Ukraine and Belarus? How'd y'all get to Zimbabwe, Rhodesia? Then how'd y'all get from Zimbabwe to South Africa? And how'd y'all get here? I was like, well, how'd y'all get here? And I said, well, you got here because you left Israel or you left Eastern Europe, but you came as a colonizer. Because if we're going to say the British colonized South Africa and the Dutch did, because we look at it as an act of force, but you guys came right along with them, even though you didn't provide the force for what people look at on, you know, in the history books. You guys came with them. And I said, you guys came between these years when the British and the Dutch were colonizing South Africa, and you came to Zimbabwe, aka South Rhodesia, and you set up your own Rhodesian Jewish Board of Deputies. And I said, isn't it something else how two European countries colonized South Africa, the Netherlands and Great Britain? You came and you colonized South Africa from 1652 all the way to 1961. And I said, and is it interesting how the British were advocating for giving the Jews land in Uganda, giving them land in Ethiopia, giving them land in Egypt, Palestine? I said, how is it that they're giving you this land or working with you to get the land, you know, the Balfour Declaration? And then I said, when we look at the Dutch East Indian Company, among the first settlers in the colony that came with the Dutch were Jews. I said, y'all came with them. And I said, here in 1903, when the British were colonizing South Africa, the Ashkenazi Jews got on boats and said, okay, the British, they're bringing all the muscle, they're bringing all the troops, they're fighting the Dutch, they're taking over South Africa, and we're going to come now on our boats and just land there and just set up shop. I said to the Jews, I said, so while the British and the Dutch were colonizing South Africa, taking over their land, colonizing their land, you guys came too. And you did what? You also colonized South Africa because you're here. You left Europe and Israel and came to South Africa. I said, can South Africans right now, can they all leave and come to Israel and set up shop? No.